Hey everyone, Kyle Walker here. If you love cars, fixing things, or just want to understand your vehicle better, you're in the right place. I share hands-on tips, smart driving advice, and straight-up car talk without the fluff. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around till the end. You don't want to miss what's coming up. Let's get into it.
The desire to reduce the noise level in the car is quite natural for many drivers. There is no denying the fact that a number of car companies do not provide their cars with the proper level of noise and vibration. Insulation from the factory. Some car owners are satisfied with the factory noise insulation, so they do not take any additional measures. Others are uncomfortable with external noises, and therefore they seek to get rid of this shortcoming. We cannot say that with the advent of liquid noise insulation for cars, there was some kind of revolution in the field of insulating materials. But gradually such noise insulation is becoming more and more in demand and popular. This is largely due to the simplicity of application and high efficiency at relatively low energy costs. What it is. To begin with, you need to understand the essence of liquid noise insulation for cars. These are special compositions based on rubber, which are in a liquid state. The mixture is sprayed on the surface to be treated. A special chemical composition allows the material in contact with air to gradually harden, acquiring a strong structure. Each manufacturer uses its own additives, which allows you to get additional properties, improve characteristics, minimize curing time, and more. An important feature of liquid rubber is that the material remains resistant to high and low temperatures, is not afraid of mechanical influences, although initially presented in the form of liquid. Basically, liquid soundproofing for cars is used in areas where it is inexpedient or impossible to use traditional mats and panels. For noise absorption due to difficult availability and low efficiency. Liquid rubber is actively used for insulating the underbody, arches, and other metal elements of the vehicle. It is relevant for gaps, hard-to-reach places, and in the gaps between noise-insulating mats or panels. At the same time, it is not at all possible to exclude the possibility of using a liquid composition for the treatment of internal surfaces in the cabin or luggage compartment. Practice clearly shows that most car owners try to combine the use of traditional and liquid soundproofing. Therefore, inside the car often use noise-absorbing mats, which are sometimes noticeably more effective and cheaper. Liquid insulators cannot be called the ideal solution. Everything has its advantages and disadvantages. Based on them, you can make your own decision whether to use liquid noise insulation materials or to give preference to classic proven solutions. Advantages and disadvantages. Planning to increase the level of comfort inside the cabin, liquid noise insulation for the car can be a great help to realize your ideas. This can be explained by a wide list of advantages. Yes, you should not forget about certain disadvantages. If we talk about the strengths, then the motorists themselves and experts in the field of noise insulation of vehicles emphasize the following advantages. Insignificant weight. If you use traditional mat insulators, they will minimally increase the weight of the car by 40 to 50 kilograms. If liquid rubber is used, the increase in weight will be no more than 20 kilograms. Good effect. The mat is designed to absorb noise and sound waves. The principle of operation is slightly different with liquid rubber. The applied layer prevents unnecessary sounds from passing through in their entirety, further dispersing them. The rubber layer takes care of all vibrations during impacts and other impacts. This explains why liquid materials are effective in providing noise insulation, practicality, and versatility. With the help of liquid compositions can be treated interior and exterior surfaces. The material is not afraid of contact with water, does not absorb moisture, has a decent mechanical resistance, protection. Liquid rubber will perform the main functions, while providing the car with additional properties. This includes protection from mechanical influences and corrosive processes. Special additives and quality insulators help prevent the development and spread of rust. Ease of application. To apply a liquid composition, it is not necessary to completely dismantle everything in the vehicle. If you follow the instructions, no problems will arise during application. Therefore, even beginners use liquid rubber, achieving positive results for themselves. Management. Here again, we are talking about minimal weight gain. Because the rubber adds a little weight to the car, it will behave on the road as before. There is no change in maneuverability, handling, or braking distance, chemical exposure, and dirt. Contamination noise insulation of the liquid type is not afraid of absolutely. Also, the material is resistant to aggressive chemistry. This mainly concerns those reagents that are scattered on the roads in winter. In contact with them, the rubber will not be destroyed. Plus, such mixtures on the roads provoke the active development of corrosion, from which the car will be protected. Adhesion. Following the manufacturer's instructions, the rubber will be applied very tightly, firmly bind to the surface, and will not peel off. Only if the technology of application is violated, the probability of bloating and destruction increases. Here a lot already depends on who is doing the work. Temperature resistance. Here you need to start from a particular manufacturer and its products. But most liquid noise insulation materials are able to retain their protective properties at temperatures from 50 to plus 50 degrees Celsius. You can clearly see that the list of advantages is quite impressive. But liquid rubber for noise insulation of cars, the main component of which is rubber, also has some weaknesses. There are only 3 main disadvantages. How significant they are specifically for you, decide for yourself. Having analyzed all the pros and cons, you can come to certain conclusions and determine the relevance of using the insulator. Price. The material itself costs a lot. If you plan to treat a large number of metal surfaces, you will have to allocate a decent budget, exceeding the cost of buying traditional soundproofing materials. If you go to a car service, the required budget will be even more. Speed of drying. When the mats are applied, after gluing them, it is enough to put the elements of the car back together, and the car can be operated further. If you use liquid rubber, its complete drying will take from a day minimum. But, in general, it takes 2 to 4 days. Reduced sound transmission. A number of manufacturers promise incredible transformations after applying their materials. Someone even writes that the sound conductivity is reduced by 50%. But such information does not always correspond to reality. The effectiveness of the means depends largely on its quality, correct application, treatment zones, and the vehicle itself. Read also, rules for gluing the rearview mirror. It is worth using liquid rubber or not. The question is quite relevant. If you want to maximize the effect, reduce the noise level in the cabin, but at the same time are ready to invest a decent amount of money in the work, the benefit of such insulators will really be. Car service versus self-application. To apply liquid soundproofing correctly, it is necessary not only to follow the instructions, but also to have at least a general idea of the types of soundproofing materials. Rubber bitumen mastics, aerosols, synthetic rubber-based products, and 2-component mastics are available. Each type of means has its own characteristics, features, strengths, and weaknesses. It is better to study them in advance, so as not to waste money, and to choose an insulator that is really suitable for the plant. Work on noise insulation of the vehicle. It is important to add that liquid insulators are divided into 2 large groups. Without prior priming. This means that the insulator can be applied to the surface without using priming compounds beforehand. Such products save time, are convenient and practical to work with. But the lack of a primer layer can negatively affect the quality of adhesion to the surface. With pre-priming, there is a category of noise insulation materials of liquid type, before the application of which you should necessarily treat the metal with a primer. It takes more time to carry out noise insulation measures, but their effectiveness is higher. Primer increases the quality of adhesion and additionally equalizes small irregularities. Choosing the right product is about half of the success. Then it all depends on how correctly and rationally the liquid noise insulation will be used. Car owners have 2 main options. The first is to do everything with your own hands. When processing the bottom of the car and other elements of the car, liquid noise insulation will be applied independently. Saves money, but requires a certain amount of effort and time. Or you can choose the second way, asking for help in a car service. The approximate cost of liquid rubber treatment of a passenger car in the interior will be about 10,000 rubles. This is a fairly common service in our time, which many car service centers are ready to provide. If you do not have the skills to work with noise insulation, or banal lack of time, but there is a free budget in this amount, it is better to turn to proven specialists. The work will take a few days. To the cost of noise insulation itself should add the cost of materials. If there is no such amount of money, or if you do not want to give them away for nothing, it is worth considering the option of self-noise insulation of your car with the help of liquid rubber. The question is different. A large number of car owners cannot afford such costs for the services of masters. And if a person is more affluent, he mostly buys such cars, which already from the factory have a decent noise insulation, which does not require special intervention. When the car is very noisy, it indicates that in front of you is an old foreign car or a representative of the domestic automobile industry. Both cases indirectly confirm that the owner does not have a lot of money to spend on workshop services. There is a desire to save money, and therefore to achieve the goal, many people prefer to apply liquid insulation on their own. When it comes to traditional soundproofing, which is carried out with the help of special mats and panels, many motorists can cope with such a task. And working with liquid compositions is much easier, which proves the experience of many vehicle owners. If you need to treat the wheel arches, it is unlikely to be difficult to dismantle the wheels and spray the compound in an even layer on the surfaces of the arches. You can never rule out the possibility of mistakes. This is a natural phenomenon. Mistakes are made by beginners, experienced motorists, and even specialists from car repair shops. No one guarantees the quality of noise insulation, which is performed at a garage-type service station in some cooperative or in a cheap car repair shop. Some of them replace the quality insulation you bought with cheaper compositions. Others apply only one layer instead of the supposed 2 to 3 layers. The master may not clean all contaminants, forget to degrease the surface before application, or ignore the mandatory requirement to apply primer. Therefore, you can make a bold conclusion that sometimes it is better to do everything with your own hands. This is a guarantee of quality, because the owner will be responsible for each stage of processing the machine noise insulation materials. It is only necessary to take a high-quality liquid mixture, strictly follow the rules, rely on the instructions of the manufacturer of the insulator, and also listen to a few useful tips. Application procedure. Practice has clearly shown that liquid noise insulation materials have high efficiency with comparative ease of application. Therefore, liquid noise insulation is often applied by car owners with their own hands. This achieves a decent soundproofing effect. For work, it is better to have an inspection pit at your disposal. This is relevant for those who are going to process the bottom of the vehicle. Special tools or equipment is not required here. Standard tools are enough to remove the wheels, unscrew fasteners, and perform a number of other dismantling operations, as well as to put everything back together at the end of noise insulation. Keep in mind that it takes from 2 days minimum for the liquid rubber to dry. In some cases, it takes 4 to 5 days to fully cure. All this time the car should be left in the garage, so that the composition could qualitatively and under the same conditions to solidify. Therefore, you need to think in advance how to organize the process, so that you do not suffer from the inability to use the car. In total, there are 4 stages, into which the entire procedure for applying liquid noise insulation material to the car is divided. Preparation. Many people underestimate the importance of this step, thus making a serious mistake. The preparation of the surface depends on the quality of adhesion between metal and liquid rubber, as well as whether the insulator additives can effectively perform their protective functions. Therefore, first of all contaminants are removed, washed, and dried the treated surfaces of the vehicle. If there are traces of rust, they should be rubbed with sandpaper. Next, the metal is degreased. Usually for such purposes, ordinary white spirit is used. It makes no sense to spend money on expensive degreasers, because white spirit perfectly copes with its tasks. Applying a layer of primer. Each primer has its own peculiarities of application, prescribed directly by the manufacturer. The primer should be applied to the prepared surface, which is free of dirt and moisture. Therefore, wait until the metal is completely dry and then proceed to the next stage of primer treatment. The primer is usually applied in 1 to 2 layers. Here already rely on the instructions to a particular product. Application of liquid insulator. Most liquid soundproofing materials are applied in 2 to 3 layers. Do not be afraid to apply an extra layer if the instructions say to. But even 1 or 4 layers will not be enough or too much. When the first layer is applied, it is necessary to give time for its complete drying. Laying the next layer on a surface that is not completely dry is not recommended, Otherwise, the quality of noise insulation will suffer. Some compositions dry in 10 to 20 minutes. Others take several hours. This depends directly on the soundproofing material and the recommendations given by the manufacturer. Drying. During drying, the car owner himself does not need to do anything. The car is left for 2 to 4 days in the garage. It is desirable to exclude sharp temperature changes or changes in the level of humidity. So the insulation will dry evenly, and therefore it will be possible to maximize the quality of adhesion with metal surfaces to be treated. Sometimes it takes up to 2 days for complete drying. But if the manufacturer says not to touch the car for 4 days, it is strongly recommended not to violate these recommendations. Read also, how to restore the operation of the heated rear window on the car, consistency and actions, the use of quality liquid noise insulation material, as well as compliance with the manufacturer's instructions are the basis for achieving maximum results. Useful recommendations. These tips should be taken into account at the stage of preparation, during the direct application, as well as after processing the car with liquid soundproofing materials. There is nothing complicated in them, but this way you will know that you are doing everything correctly. Always shake the cans and mix the liquid compounds before application. Liquid rubber is a multi-component product, and some of the additives in it may gradually settle to the bottom. As a result, the insulator turns out to be broken into layers. When applied, you may not get all the properties or reduce the effectiveness of metal protection. The use of atomizers. If the noise insulation is presented in the form of a spray can, such a remedy should be applied evenly and smoothly. Do not rush into anything, otherwise you risk only spoiling everything. Never hold the can against one point for a long time, but also do not miss areas of metal surfaces. A layer that is too thin will not be able to cope with the stresses, and an overly thick layer will take a long time to dry. Protection of car elements. Since liquid rubber is not applied to all surfaces, they must be protected from the product. Use adhesive tape or wide tape. After completing the work, carefully remove them. Read the instructions. The advice is banal, but for some reason it is the one most often ignored by motorists. No one disputes that many drivers previously had to work with liquid noise insulation materials. But each manufacturer has its own features, characteristics and properties, uses different additives, because of which there are no universal instructions for use. It is necessary to carefully read the manual for a particular liquid insulator, so as not to make mistakes and maximize the use of the material's capabilities, a combination of traditional and liquid insulators. In fact, this is the best decision that can be made when you want to create the best possible noise insulation. Degreasing. This is the moment when not all manufacturers can be trusted. Some of them write on the packages of their liquid rubber that it is not necessary to degrease the surface beforehand, because their composition will cope perfectly well without this stage of preliminary preparation. It is possible that this is true, but it is better to be reassured using degreasers. If the rubber will be loose to the surface of the metal, the layer can swell, peel off, which will eventually provoke the formation of corrosion. Plus will reduce the quality of the noise isolator itself. Do not violate the drying mode. Often drivers see that the insulator dried up on the second day, so they are in a hurry to get behind the wheel and check the work of liquid noise insulation in the case. This is a very common and serious mistake, which is not recommended. Even if it seems that the rubber is completely dry, when it is required to wait 4 days, wait the full 4 days. And only then can the car be driven out of the garage. It is up to each car owner to decide whether to perform soundproofing with liquid means on his own or to seek help from a car repair shop. The main thing here is not to save on quality materials, as well as to follow all the rules for preparing the car for the application of liquid soundproofing. Then the time and financial costs can justify themselves to the fullest extent. In conclusion, liquid noise insulation is an innovative solution that significantly enhances the acoustic comfort of vehicles. By applying this advanced material to various surfaces within a car, manufacturers can effectively reduce unwanted noise from the engine, road, and wind, creating a quieter and more enjoyable driving experience. As the automotive industry continues to prioritize passenger comfort, the use of liquid noise insulation is likely to become increasingly common. paving the way for a new standard in vehicle design. Thank you for watching, and we hope you gained valuable insights into this fascinating topic.